Japanese government held its first meeting to deal with this content-creating form of AI on Thursday. Prime Minister Kishida wants Japan to lead efforts to establish international rules on AI.
Generative AI has the potential to positively change economies and societies, but it also has risks. We need to deal with its development appropriately. Countries around the world are now trying to figure out the right balance. Japan, as the G7 host this year, will need to take leadership in creating common rules.
Kishida instructed the relevant government ministries to identify ways to maximize the use of generative AI, as well as pinpoint its risks. AI was also high on the agenda at the G7 Digital and Tech Ministers Summit at the end of April. The discussions included how to ensure the free flow of trusted data across borders, as that's an important and basic part of setting international rules for AI usage. Data is a driver of technology, as massive amounts of it go into artificial intelligence and also supports everything from self-driving systems to factory automation. By feeding AI with data, new applications are emerging. One is developing new medicines and treatments. The problem now is that each country has different rules and regulations for data transactions. So, at the Digital Summit, ministers agreed to establish an office to oversee the free flow of trusted data among member countries. They aim to have that in the agenda at the summit. Now, this concept originated from Japan in 2019. Since then, it has been slowly taking shape, being discussed at subsequent summits. I talked to Japan's digital transformation minister, Kono Taro. He has been advocating for a framework to actually have an office for data regulation up and running. Kono says it will take too much time if the framework tried to agree on a single set of rules for data flow, so Japan is taking a more realistic approach.
We would like to create an international database on data regulations, and we would like to update. We would like to continue to update. So if you wanted to do business in Japan, Europe, or anywhere on this planet, if you could go into this database, you can find out exactly what you have to do, where you're going. So that's one step forward for global data convergence.
Kono says another project for the framework is testing the new software that converts personal data into an anonymous form for privacy purposes. If the framework can verify the software's effectiveness, companies can safely use it to utilize personal data. So you're going to do all these projects on, creating a database and testing the softwares to ensure privacy and security of data. So what is the ultimate goal of this institution?
The G7 is trying to set up this international framework, but we would like to open up to the like-minded countries and even for the global south.
So first agreement among G7 countries. Do you think that's difficult? I mean, we hear that there are very different views on cross-border data flows, even among the G7 countries.
Sure. Different views, but everyone thinks we have to do something to ensure the data free flow, because data is the sort of core for the economic growth now.
What kind of results and by when do you expect this institution to produce so that people will see this as an effective institution?
Well, if we could get the endorsement from the leadership this year, I think we can start establishing international framework next year. And then once it's up and running, we would do all those concrete projects. We would like to start out small, and we wanted to build a success. So, we don't want to start big and not doing well. We would like to start out very small and keep success on top of each other.
So if this framework on international free flow of trusted data actually starts working, it could be a game changer for global economic growth. But to make it work, governments will have to move quickly and flexibly as the world of technology is moving fast.
Hello everybody, it's Max with Crypto Talk Now. On today's video for Jasmy, we're going to tie in quite a few things. And of course, you guys just saw that particular intro with Taro Kono. The reason why it's so important is because of data free flow with trust. So on the beginning of our outline, we're going to get into why that's so significant. On top of that, we have some info that you may have never been aware of when it comes to some of these patents, and particularly when it comes to one big wig individual who obviously works for Jasmy but has strong ties to Sony, and why these patents are so incredibly bullish. Yes, bullish for you as a Jasmy holder going here into the future. And how about this for size? What Sony is invested into? Did you have any idea of why that's so huge? We're going to tie it all in on today's deep dive. Jasmy, Sony, the whole big picture. So smash that like if you haven't done so already, and let's jump into just that. Today's video for Jasmy. Here we go. All right, so like I mentioned, you guys saw that intro, and it was quite the intro because that was recent, right? Roughly within the last couple of days. Now, I want to get into some of the key things that were mentioned here from this interpretation. So for one, Taro Kono talked about AI strategy, quote, framework for free data distribution starting the next fiscal year. And that is really, really bullish for crypto in general, because it's not just Japan. As he mentioned, we want to have, for instance, the United States, the European Union, and some other big players come into the mix. When we talk about regulatory framework, this may very well be the key to getting that going through Mr. Taro Kono. As we know, he's the digital minister of Japan. Like he said in that particular interview, we need to launch and start working on DFFT as early as next fiscal year. Of course, DFFT as in data free flow with trust. Now, a little bit more about this guy in his background. So, even recently, a day ago, there was an exclusive in regards to Japan considering joining India's UPI payment system, says Japanese Minister Kono Taro. He's very, very active. This guy's about 60 years old, and he's, of course, a politician, but he's serving as the Minister of Digital Affairs of Japan since August of 2022. So, when I got more into this, I saw some key things that I thought I would bring to you guys, and I didn't want to read this whole article, so I just got to the key areas. So it says, according to people familiar with the document, the draft of the communique states, in regards to the G7 nations, intention to operationalize the concept of DFFT with a view to gain more widespread support for the principle and greater convergence between existing regulatory approaches. Now, listen to this in regards to Japan for a moment. Japan's attempt to take a leadership role of this issue of data flow, try to remember some of these key phrases or words, data flow, coincides with a period in which the country is struggling to secure a reputation on all things digital. Kono, an experienced former minister or former foreign minister and leadership challenger, became Japan's Minister of Digital Affairs, like I mentioned, in August 2022. He inherited with enthusiasm a project to drag Japan's paper-based bureaucracy into the digital age, but has continued to encounter powerful resistance. The mismatch between Japan's economic strength and its digital prowess can be striking, as Foreign Minister Kono was used to making offers of assistance to his counterparts from around the world, just like what you saw in that interview, right? It's not, that there's, all these differences of all these different countries and so on. How can we take it to the next step? In my opinion, it's through that regulatory framework. But could Japan very well have just that, guys? The framework to make this happen. Look at this quote. It says, I would tell them that if there was anything Japan can do, we are happy to give you assistance. But ever since I became digital minister, it's my counterpart offering anything they can do to help Japan's digitalization. Everyone knows we are lagging behind, he says. In reality, the rest of the world is lagging behind. Japan gets it. Now, I want to point this out. All right, before we get more into some of these real key things you're going to see on today's outline. I'm telling you flat out, this is probably going to be the best deep dive video I've ever done. I took a lot of pride in this particular video, and I want to give a shout out to all these people who have the info, like this guy, Jasmy India. You know, this was published back on August 3rd, 2022, but he states he did a full KYC performed on Jasmy. Like he says, please go through it. He will not perform KYC again on Jasmy. It's all clear. Jasmy is going to be one of the best performers in cryptocurrency market. Now my target is to add till 10 LAKH, Jasmy, hold the life dear, etc., etc. Now I'm going to blow this up. What I want to show you, for instance, here is some of these people, right? And if anything, you may not be familiar with all of these people, but my key thing is I want to show you, for instance, not necessarily this guy, but obviously Kazumasa Sato. And as we get further into the deep dive for tonight, man, he like the biggest player when it comes to tying all this together, obviously with Sony, some of the patents, you name it. So, as we can see right here, it mentions from Crunchbase a few key things. Kazumasa Sato obviously is the executive chairman of BJIT. And we go further down, or further back, I should say, for instance. I guess that's what ties in, for instance, this guy, JM Sakat Akbar. He's the founder chairman of BJIT Group, right? And on top of that, it says, BJIT Group is an information communications and ICT company that provides software development and information technology service. For instance, like what you saw from Crunchbase, LinkedIn, and so on, right? I didn't say we put much emphasis on him, but nonetheless, we're giving you a reference to why this is important. On top of that, regards to BJIT Group, they were founded, if you didn't know, on April 1st, 2004. Some of the founders, right? James Sakat Akbar. The legal name is BJIT Inc. Of course, they're active. They even have a phone number. That group is, like it says, is an information communications and ICT company that provides software development and information technology service. They also provide services such as application development, AI deep learning, IoT as an Internet of Things. Think about that for a second. And embedded engineering, and enterprise solution, software testing, global education. They were founded in 2004, and they're, of course, headquartered in Tokyo, Japan, just like, for instance, with Jasmy. Now, some of the guys that you see here, all right, consist of a group of 7. Obviously, Kazumasa Sato is a big player because of Jasmy. Yasuhiro Akashi, vice president and COO. Keep in mind, Akashi, right, we know is a subsidiary of, I believe, Sony, right? We covered some of this before. There's other content creators who covered Jasmy long before I have, who confirmed some of these key things. But nonetheless, I wanted to show you guys some of this. Here's a little bit more of why this is important. And if anything on this one, I'll try to blow it up just a tad bit more. So here's a little bit more in regards to this. BJIT software company from Bangladesh. You also have to keep in mind, these particular regions of the world. So, you got this whole thing of Panasonic, obviously Sony, a big player, Toshiba, IBM, all right? And, it's worth pointing out, to say the least. Now, I want to jump back a little bit more of what we got here in regards to this. A little bit more of like what you see posted, all right? It says meet our executives, obviously when it comes to Mr. Sato, we understand some of his background, but let's pull that up for just a brief moment. Blow this up. So in regards to chairman of the board, Kazumasa Sato, like it says, after joining Sony Corporation, he served general manager of Sony Marketing Corporation in 1999, became president and representative director of SonyStyle.com Corporation in the year 2000. In 2002, he was appointed executive officer of Sony Marketing Corporation and president of Sony Style Company. In 2005, he was appointed president and CEO of Sony Style Japan Co. Limited, and executive officer, Sony Marketing Corporation. A little bit more, in 2007, became the director of the Creative Center of Sony Corporation. After that, he served as general manager of UNIQLO, Global Communication Co. Limited. And in 2012, he became the president and representative director of BJIT Corporation. In 2018, he became chairman of the board of directors of BJIT Co. Limited. And as we also know, he's a big player when it comes to Jasmy, right? Of course, there's more on this particular guy here, right? But I'm not going to put so much emphasis on him. I want to jump back to what we have in regards to a little bit more of what we have from this gentleman of Jasmy, India. I'm going to blow this one up as well. So on this one, you're going to see, for instance, a couple key players here. And that is, for instance, President and CEO Masaki Horikawa said after joining NTT Data Communications Corporation, established NTT Data Techno Mark Co. Limited, representative director and vice president. He assumed the position back in 2002. In 2010, concurrently served as a non-executive director of Vertex Software Co. Gives some more information in regards to, like, obviously what he's doing. But nonetheless, in 2018, he served as a non-director of NTT Data Thailand, became the president. I mean, it's pretty impressive, right? I want to jump down to this guy, who is Mr. Yasuhiro Akashi. Listen what's mentioned with him. So it states with him, he worked as a buyer at the PC mass retailer, listen to this, T-Zone, and became a director of Love Ross Co. In 2003. After being involved in the founding and management of the venture company in 2004, he served as an executive officer of Robot Payment Co. Limited. I mean, think about this, guys. I mean, this is why this is important, because this guy has a lot of experience with just that, the Internet of Things, right? When we show you guys some of those particular examples of what you saw with, the digital twins, with that, with WITS, for instance, and so on. Well, what about, for instance, with Akashi? Right. So, I mean, all these things kind of make sense when you look more into the backgrounds of some of these particular people. And I'm glad that somebody did a KYC a while back, right? Back all the way back, what was it, last year? So, I'm gonna share just a little bit more in regards to this. In 2021, he became president and representative of Global Geeks Co. Limited. He is the member of National Support Committee for the Bangladesh IT Human Resource Development Project of the Japan International Corporation Agency, which is JICA, and a member of Nagano IT Collaboration Information Committee. Now, last I checked, remember the whole thing about Nagano? There's another key person from Jasmy who's a Sony executive, right? And if anything, I think he teaches. We covered this in the last deep dive at Nagano University, right? And why that's important. So again, I mean, when you think about like all these connections and these guys rubbing elbows with each other, they're all connected. That's the main key takeaway. All right, a little bit more. Just double checking my settings, make sure I'm not muted. I want to show you guys just a little bit more on what we have here today. This is one of the key areas that I want you to draw your emphasis to. So on this, it states, for instance, did you know that Sony has their own bank? I didn't. And if you want to know about some of this, I'm going to show you this. So here it is, Sony Bank, right? This is from moneykit.net/en. And like it says, take your bank with you. Seamless payments inside and outside Japan, multiple currencies, all in one card, English online banking, on the go, right? Notifications from Sony Bank. They had a bunch of notifications, but nonetheless, I mean, it's a bank, right? I didn't know that Sony had a bank. Did you? All right. Check out this next key thing. Did you know that Sony has their own insurance company? I didn't. I wasn't aware of that either, right? So I'm going to jump into that as well. And, I want to show you some key things in regards to that specifically. So in regards to what was mentioned there, let me just jump back for a second. Yeah, the insurance company. Yeah, so, Sony Financial Group. Look what's mentioned here, guys. life insurance business, non-life insurance, right? Some of these other things for VCs. Sony Life, yeah, established 1979. This is the site, which is only in Japanese, sonylife.co.jp. Sony Life again, communications. But nonetheless, you can verify this for yourself. It's all there. Let me jump back just a little bit more. So, how about this? And this is good stuff too. Did you know that Sony has their own payment systems? Like he says, I didn't. Yeah, they have their own payment systems. If you can verify this yourself from Crunchbase. Sony Payment Services. Sony Payment Service is a credit card settlement business and other settlement service, headquartered in Tokyo, Japan. Pretty impressive. And I believe this right here represents 154,880 employees. I may be mistaken on that, but nonetheless, it's verifiable. Let me jump back to this real quick. How about this for size? Did you know that Sony has people at mega banks? Now, you may be wondering, like, Max, like, okay, this is about Sony. You get the Jasmy stuff. I promise you we will. But here's the thing. I want you guys to understand there's a reason why I put so much emphasis on this. And it will absolutely just blow you away with some of this information. So, did you know that Sony has people at the mega banks, like he mentions? One of their former presidents now runs Sony Financial. Did you know that the same bank owns 24% of Morgan Stanley? That's interesting in itself, is it not? How so? Look what's mentioned here. Now, I don't have the verification for Morgan Stanley, but what I can tell you is, which you know, on the right side of the screen, Sony Financial Group, founded on the 1st of April 2004, is Sony Financial Holdings Inc. It is a Japanese holding company for Sony's financial services business and headquartered in Tokyo, Japan. Like it says, parent organization, Sony Corporation, some of the subsidiaries, Sony Bank. So we weren't making that up. Sony Life, there you go, a little bit more, right? Sony Financial Ventures. But total assets come out to be 14.5 trillion JPY. Now, I did convert this, okay? And so I went to this converter. I converted it to US dollars. And on top of that, look at what it comes out to in American. That's a lot. It comes out to be $105,099,117,500. So there's a lot of money to be, you know, basically right there, right? They're like 1/10 of $1 trillion, basically. What I also want to show you is some of the other key things. And that is this right here. Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation is the bank they are associated to on their website, which holds about 2.18 TAUM. Now that's impressive too. But look what's also mentioned here, and this is one of the key things I want you to pay attention for if you're a Jasmy holder. It says they are also the only crypto, they as in, you know, Jasmy, which is backed by the FSA, which is like basically the SEC for Japan, okay? So it seems to be very hard to secure one of these licenses. Now that got me excited. What in the world was Sony planning with this? It's an Internet of Things crypto, but if you look into more of the founder's patents that's related to Sony, it seems to be implants that can monetize humans. They even own the patents for it. And here is the big whopper of them all, the real juicy stuff. I'm telling you flat out, after I learned more of this information, I said to myself at these particular prices, and this is just for me, this is not financial advice, but this is what I'm personally doing. I went out and I bought 2 more bags of Jasmy because I'm so impressed with the research that I found for myself. Here is the big whopper of them all. And I'm telling you flat out, you might want to just bookmark this, or, you know, you right click on the video and copy URL at time or timestamp. Let's jump into this because it is very important to basically get into some of these key things. So I'm going to show you guys this, and one of the main reasons why I want to show you guys this is what you're going to see right here. This is just absolutely massive, to say the least. So this is from patents.justia.com. You know, it's just, they have info on anything and everything, right? It says patents by inventor Kazumasa Sato. Okay, as we know, he's like one of the top dogs. I think he's listed number 2 from the top for Jasmy, right? He has, you know, a robust history with Sony, being an executive and so on, right? We covered some of these things. This is all public knowledge. You can look more into it for yourself if you choose to do so. So look what's mentioned. Kazumasa Sato has filed for patents to protect the following inventions. This listing includes patent applications that are pending, as well as patents that have already been granted by the United States Patent and Trademark Office, the USPTO. Here is what's key. It says basically impedance measuring device for biological samples and impedance measuring system for biological samples. You got to keep in mind, remember how we reported in the past that, you know, biometric data is so important when it comes to Jasmy, but in particular what they can bring to the Internet of Things. Remember that video? If you haven't seen it, highly recommend this as well. Again, shout out to Brian, who originally covered, for instance, Smart City, or Society, excuse me, Society 5.0. This is all in regards to that, right? So in Japan, they're looking to build what is referred to as some of these smart cities. And so, like, what does that entail? Again, when we put the, you know, draw the lines together, or, you know, connect the dots, this is one perfect example of connecting the dots. Because why would a guy from Sony, who obviously heads up Jasmy, go through the trouble of making a patent that has everything in the world tied to just that, not only the Internet of Things, but some of these smart cities? So like it says, this abstract provided an impedance measuring device for biometric samples, including one of a plurality of biological sample holdings units configured to hold a biological sample, and an applying unit configured to apply an AC voltage of a pair of electrodes in contact with the biological sample held by the biological sample holding unit. I know I'm saying that a lot, but it says it's a measuring unit configured to measure an impedance of the biological sample obtained by an AC voltage being applied to the biological sample by the applying unit, and a measurement condition control unit configured to control a measuring time and or a measuring frequency in the measuring unit. When was this filed? March 14, 2018. And what type was it? It was a grant. Now, as we can see with Jasmy, they have, for instance, grass going on in itself, and this is obviously different. But like it says, date of patent, October 13th, 2020. So it's filed in 2018. It basically was posted as a patent on the 13th of October 13th of 2020. Look what's assigned though. Sony Corporation. Why is that so big? Well, you may be thinking, well, that's for Sony, Max. Again, understand this. Who is one of the inventors? You better believe it. Kazumasa Sato. And why is that so big is for you as a Jasmy holder? Because he is part of not only Sony, but he's part of Jasmy. This is absolutely huge. Now, there's more and more of these particular patents, and I'll only get into maybe just a couple more, and you could take more of your own reference, deep dive if you want, by going to patents.justia.com/inventor/Kazumasa-Sato, and I highly recommend you do that. But basically speaking, you know, when we get more into this, check this out. There's more. And like it says, contract structure body electrical measuring device for biological samples. You know, this is another example of that. But again, how about this? Kazumasa Sato. Data patent 2018. Filed all the way back on July 13th of 2015. I think I'll get into just a couple more. Where is this other one? Yeah, how about this one? This one's really, really, really key. Because remember how you guys saw that particular intro video, and it showed how there was this video capturing everybody was walking around? This is real key. So Excuse me, making sure I'm not muted. On this one, it says, a video playback system includes a video distribution server and at least one information processing device. The video distribution server includes a video distribution portion that performs streaming distribution of a video stream, an alternative video distribution portion that distributes an alternative video, and a control information distribution portion that distributes control information. The information processing device includes, a receiving portion that receives the video stream, the alternative video, and the control information, a storage portion that stores the alternative video and the control information, a video stream playback portion that performs streaming playback of the video stream, an alternative video playback portion that plays back the stored alternative video, and a playback switching control portion that, based on the stored control information, controls switching between the streaming playback and playback of the alternative video, right? Assignee, Sony Corporation. Data patent, February 20th, 2018, but filed originally all the way back on October 3rd, 2013. Who's one of the inventors? Kazumasa Sato. Again. All right. Why put so much emphasis on this, right? The reason why I want us to understand why there's so much emphasis on this, and why I just think, when it comes to people who want to call Jasmy a scam, they have not taken their deep dive into this. I'm just being flat out honest. Why would somebody like Kazumasa Sato go through so much trouble dating back apparently many, many years ago, right? That right there, October 3rd, 2013, was basically 10 years. Sorry, I'm just checking the time because I have an appointment coming up. So 10 years ago, if anything, he had, or they have with Sony, they have this whole vision of these smart cities. You better believe it. And, Jasmy heads it up, if you will, when it comes to not only data democratization and this whole concept of, personal data lockers and so on, but when we talk about, for instance, Jasmy and the, IoT Internet of Things, man, I mean, how would you like to have somebody who is like literally leading, like one of the culprits of like, filing for patents? It's one thing to like start a cryptocurrency, but there's another thing to actually show evidence that these guys have been working in the background, even with Sony, to get this done. Now, again, you can go through all this yourself, and there's about 2 pages worth of patents here. I would highly recommend do it. Now, watch this for a second. This is the aha moment. So, look at this. And remember, all right, we're going to jump back for a second. Remember what this gentleman, Taro Kano, was mentioning so many times when it comes to just that. When it comes to data free flow with trust. Are you with me on this? I hope to God you are, because you want to know something? Look at what's mentioned here. All right, and I'll highlight it again. Look at this. And this is a patent filed on October 13, 2015. This is the juicy stuff. Sorting apparatus, cell sorting chip, and cell sorting method. Answer: a cell sorting apparatus includes a flow channel. Wow. Flow channel through which fluid, including cell flows, electric field application section capable of applying an electric field having gradient in a direction different from the flowing direction of the fluid of the first position of the flow channel. I mean, that's amazing. Look at this last part that's mentioned. And a flow splitting section configured to split the cells, changing their flowing directions due to a dielectrophoretic force, my goodness, caused by application of electric field at a second position on the downstream side of the first position on the flow channel. This guy, as we know, right, leads up the digital, he's a digital minister of, man, I can't remember all this stuff off the top of my head. Taro Kono is a Japanese politician serving as the Minister of Digital Affairs of Japan since August of 2022. Hopefully he keeps the position, because this guy, in my opinion, is like the elected representative to get things going, right? When it comes to, this framework that we're all looking for. But when he keeps mentioning data free flow with trust, I think these are some of the examples of flow channels and so on. And Jasmy is tied into this again. Kazumasa Sato, for crying out loud, filed for this back on October 13th of 2015. Data patent September 12th of 2017. Unbelievable. And there's, of course, a lot more in regards to this. Look at this. More about the whole thing about flow channels, data free flow with trust. Look how many times flow is mentioned here. I mean, I get criticized by what's his name about, oh, you can't make this stuff up. But I mean, in reality, I'm not making anything up. I'm just taking my own deep dive into some of this stuff. Anybody could take a deep dive into some of this stuff if they are willing to do so and take the time, right? I mean, look at this last one. Measurement apparatus using flow channel device, including, there's a lot to be mentioned here, guys. And every single time, at every turn of the table, you see Kazumasa Sato, or as Mr. Hara would refer to him as Sato-san, right? I understand that, out of respect. So look into this yourself, right? All right, I want to show you guys a little bit more in regards to what we have for this deep dive, right? Because that right there, I mean, maybe you feel as though, man, you can end it right there. I mean, we're good, right? There's a little bit more, I swear, and it's good stuff to basically get into. But I was glad to do it. So, all right. So we got the whole thing in regards to the patents. What about this whole topic of, for instance, it says, then they found they were associated to this thing called Line Me. Now let's talk about Line Me for a second. Now, for some of you guys who have been Jasmy for a while, you already know about Line.me. But for some of our newer guys, or even myself, I wasn't aware about Line Me. Well, it states that this is like Facebook in the Southeast Asian sector. They partnered, Jasmy, for instance, partnered with them. You can look into the application. They have a full suite of services which can be monetized with Jasmy as its backing allows users to sell their data essentially. So on this particular one, we're going to play a short video, and it's going to show you what exactly they're talking about. It might not have, like, for instance, perfect English translation, but there is a little bit. So let's go ahead and play that, and we'll be right back. Here we go.
So what is Line? With over 92 million users, Line is the messenger app in Japan, making it the perfect platform to promote products and services. It has the widest user demographic from teenagers to over 60-year-olds. Even though Line started off as a very simple messenger app, it is now much more than that. It is hugely popular not only in Japan but also in other Asian countries. It is now considered to be a super app with a network of over 100 services. People use it for messaging, gaming, keeping up with the news, shopping, trading NFTs, and much more. There are also Line stickers that feature cute characters that can be used in marketing campaigns. You too can reach Line's 92 million users, which is over 70% of the Japanese population. With such powerful market penetration, Line Ads platform offers a variety of services, from classic brand awareness and website traffic campaigns to more unique digital marketing activities like CPF, cost per friend campaigns, which can help you reach new crowd of loyal customers. Line official account is a very unique opportunity for brands to build a loyal fan base and communicate directly with their customers. DMFA, Digital Marketing for Asia, is a part of the SoftBank family and Line's official partner. We offer Line official account and Line Ads platform management services. We have first-hand insights into Line's latest products and services, and you can rely on our knowledge and expertise.
All right, so here's the actual Line site. And if anything, you can go more into it yourself and so on. There's a lot to be mentioned. Like it says, more than just a messenger app, Line is the new level of communication and the very infrastructure of your life. But nonetheless, it's really, really big in Japan. I mean, like, you saw mentioned with that bonus, feature of that one particular lady. I believe there's over 90 million people on the platform. So it's pretty huge. And then people being able to monetize their data if they choose to do so, that's pretty big in itself, right? So you can find out more information in regards to Line if you choose to do so at line.me/en for you get the English version. I'm going to jump back into a little bit more of this particular outline. So there's just like a couple more things I want to point out, and it's this right here. And in my opinion, this is like, excuse me, this is like the icing on the cake, if you will. So this part right here is, this guy says, and I don't even know who this guy is. I stumbled upon this and I thought it was great research, to say the least. I would like to give this guy credit, but to be honest, this was something I don't even remember where this came from, but when I went more through it, I was able to verify, just like you guys saw in the video, that all this added up, right? And that was the key thing. So at some point, this guy's, if you want me to give you some credit on this, I'll be more than glad to, and I'll include it in the description. But check out what is mentioned right here. It states, basically, I would tell you more, but due to his due diligence, led to several entities like Grayscale, Santander, Genesis Trading, Coinbase. Another one is interesting, securities.io. Sony invested, right? Sony invested millions into this. So why is that important? Excuse me. The reason why it's important is because I want to show you this for a second, okay? So it's this right here, and this site, right? It says Securitize, access the most exclusive asset class in the world, private markets. Create a free account and start investing in startup equity, funds, commodities, real estate, and more. And for some of you guys, you may consider this particular area that much more impressive or juicy or whatever you want to call it compared to what you saw earlier in regards to the patents. And that's okay. Because once you see some things on the bottom here, you're going to be like blown away, to say the least. You may already know about securitize.io. Like it says, invest in carefully vetted investment opportunities, fund the next generation of world-class startups, projects, funds, and more during their capital raise, trade private shares if you choose to do so, trade stocks, right? But nonetheless, this is what I want to jump into, all right? And here's one of the key things. It's something like, for instance, their story, if you will. It says their team believes in an accessible and frictionless future for both issuers and investors, where all investors can trade and private companies can fundraise using digital securities. As an industry leader, we are paving the path for the compliant digitalization of financial assets. Securitize is a digital asset securities firm. Our goal is to provide access for investors to invest in private market digital asset securities, security tokens, and provide companies with a fully digital end-to-end suite of compliant solutions leveraging the advantage of next generation blockchain technology. They have worked with over 200 plus issuers. Securitize is a pioneer in the digitalization of private market securities on the blockchain, for example, like some of the things you see here. But guys, I'm just going to jump into what's the most important thing here. And I'm going to go all the way down and show you this. All right. So for one, they have a bunch of office locations, San Francisco, Las Vegas, New York. They're all over the world, right? Obviously Tokyo. There's some key players here, right? Part of their team. I'm just going to jump all the way to the bottom because this is really, really the good, juicy stuff. Meet our investors. Obviously, like we mentioned before, Morgan Stanley. Why, that's big, to say the least. But look at this, guys. Ripple. Ripple's even part of this. And last but not least, look who's featured here. Sony Financial Ventures. So, I mean, oh man, it gets more and more impressive when you try to, basically speaking, like, connect all the dots for this and you tie this all together. I mean, Ripple, for crying out loud, Ripple's XRP, like, I'm personally invested into that. That's part of my top 5. Jasmy is literally my number 5, but you know what? I keep mentioning to people, I state, could Jasmy be the one that gets to the promised land first? And yes, for this outline that we've given you guys, for instance. So if we are, I believe Ripple's XRP is eventually going to get us, that generational wealth, just like Stellar, Quant, and so on. But if you have, again, a country that's already embracing cryptocurrency, is already embracing, distributed ledger technology, this whole concept of data free flow with trust, and everything that we outlined for you guys tonight in regards to this deep dive of finding out what Mr. Sato-san is connected to with the patents that he basically mentioned or filed a while back and so on, dating back over 10 years, a full decade and so on, and it's consistently tied into Sony and Sony's connections, like we just basically showed you, to all of this, to the bigger picture, is absolutely huge. So, we'll continue to try to follow this whole thing of, DFFT, data free flow with trust, because it's so important, not just only for Japan and for Jasmy especially, but what about this, guys? Like, we're always talking about that whole concept of getting that clarity that we're all dreaming of, for we can have big institutional money coming in. But again, Japan already has that figured out, and they are literally at the cusp of getting this, thing going, like you mentioned, by the beginning of 2024, and this path forward. Do you really want to come into Jasmy when this thing is ready, like, over $5 or $10 a coin? No, you do not. You want to be part of the accumulation phase. Now, it's not financial advice, but that is just what I'm personally doing. And I'm looking to basically DCA the living heck out of Jasmy at every opportunity at these low prices. So there you guys have it. Let me know what you think in regards to all this and the bigger picture when it comes to Jasmy. They're already out there. They're going to all these, summits and so on. You really think they're just out there because it's a scam and they're wasting everybody's time? I don't think that's the case. I think there's more to it than meets the eye on the surface. And when we dive more into Jasmy, we uncover quite a few things. At least I did tonight. And I'm glad, if anything, you stayed to the end to watch this particular video. So like, comment, subscribe if you haven't done so already. And if you enjoy a live show, check us out every single day of the week at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific for Crypto Talk Now. On behalf of myself, Larry, and the rest of the CTN Network crew, thank you for watching today's deep dive for Jasmy. Smash that bell notification if you haven't done so as well. Thanks again, everybody. Have a blessed day. We'll see you on the next one.